Good Saturday morning. It is September the 16th, 2017. Welcome to this week's weekly weather briefing where we have yet another hurricane that could make landfall in the United States. Right now, it is forecast to miss the New England coast by just about 100 or so miles, but it could very well veer off to the left as the track has been trending so over the last couple of days. You can tell right now it is a Category 1 hurricane with peak winds around 81 miles per hour, and it will continue its Category 1 strength up until it reaches closer towards the Chesapeake Bay, just east of it, and then it will begin to weaken as it does so, but it's still carrying with it its strong tropical-like characteristics, so we could definitely be looking at several inches of rain, some windy time periods coming up for the next couple of days in parts of New England, but right now it doesn't look like this is going to be a major hurricane making landfall in the United States, but know that there is a possibility that it could make landfall, but not as a major hurricane. It shouldn't have any impact on our region, and it is not doing any impact on our region at all as of right now. Temperatures across the region are in the mid 70s to even some upper 70s already being recorded in parts of the purchase area of western Kentucky, even though it is 10 o'clock in the morning, so we do have a warm day ahead of us. Current dew point temperatures are standing around 70 degrees, so very muggy air is being felt this morning across the purchase area as well, and this is going to be a trend that continues over the next couple of weeks as we see a cold front near our region sort of stall out just to our north and west, bringing doses of warm and humid air just ahead of it towards our region over the next couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and look at what the next couple of weeks have in store for us. At least over the next week, we are looking at some rain chances coming into our region once we enter into the time period on Sunday. Sunday and into Monday, we're looking at several periods of showers and thunderstorms that are going to be present in the region. This does not mean that we're going to be looking at an all-out rain event for every single location in the Purchase region, but rather a chance for most of the region as we go in towards this upcoming week. And once we get in towards the middle of the week, we're going to see some rain chances ramp up a little bit more as we get closer towards Wednesday and Thursday. We will see some more energy available for these thunderstorms to work with, so more likely we're going to be looking at more convection across the region, which means more coverage in showers and thunderstorms. We get in towards the end of the week, things become a little bit iffy as that cold front sort of falls apart, and we see a new low pressure system take hold, and that should develop a new cold front, and that should move towards our region once we get towards next weekend, and it should move through our region and enter in some chillier air for this time of the year once we get in towards next week, around the middle of next week. But it's over the next week or so that we are really going to be honing in on above normal temperatures every day, just about a chance for an afternoon shower or thunderstorm, with some different days where we will have enhanced shower and thunderstorm activity due to the amount of convection available for this atmosphere to work with. And then we will also be watching the cold front. When it moves through, we will obviously see an increase in shower and thunderstorm intensity and coverage across the region. But right now, no cold fronts forecast to come through over the next week, maybe a week one or two, but we're not looking at any strong cold front like what we have out northwest of us associated with any low pressure system until around the middle of next week, because we have a lot of these low pressure systems that are beginning to move towards the north, and they're beginning to ride along the jet stream as it begins to work its way south for the fall and winter months. We have to go through this cycle where these low pressure systems go to our north and bring in warm and humid air ahead of them. Right now, they're going so far north that they don't have any cold front available to come this far south. Therefore, we're not receiving any cold front, hardly any rain, or any cold air behind these systems. So it doesn't look like we're going to be looking at any cold air coming in over the next week because these low pressure systems will be so far north, if that makes any sense. But we go into the middle of next week, it looks like that cold front will begin to finally move through the region as the low pressure system actually moves from west to east. You can see a lot of them just form out in the Rockies and move northeast, and we usually don't see any precipitation with events like those, and we will not be seeing any over the next week besides those afternoon shower and thunderstorm chances, just because it's going to be so warm. We will have plenty of energy to work with for heat of the day pop-up shower and thunderstorm activity. As we go through the 500 millibar geopotential height anomaly, we notice a lot of ridging taking place in our part of the country, and that will take hold and stay hold onto our region throughout the next week and a half. It's once we get past this graphic and we get into the middle of next week when we begin to see these bluer colors begin to move in towards our region, and that will be thanks to that cold front finally moving through, which I think will actually occur, but it's not going to be in the next week. Once we look at the rainfall, you can tell that we're looking at rainfall to be anywhere between a 0 to around half an inch. I wouldn't be surprised if some areas receive up to an inch of rainfall because of these heat of the day pop-up shower and thunderstorm activity. They can move very slow, so we know how these thunderstorms work. It would be really just like a summertime pattern. It is fall, but we can always see some summertime warmth and activity during the fall, winter, and into the fall months. So don't be surprised if some areas pick up more rainfall than usual, more than half an inch. But overall, I think everybody will pick up rainfall at least over the next week. But it's once we get in towards the middle of next week when we think that we're going to be looking at more rainfall on top of what we get this week. Temperatures are going to be anywhere over the next week into the mid to upper 80s. I would not be surprised if some of us do touch 90 degrees, but that is going to be due to the warm air. But we also have clouds and we also have precipitation that we have to monitor. So we're also not sure on how that's going to play a role into the temperatures, but we think it's going to play a role into making the temperatures lower than what these forecast graphics are showing. Some of them want to show almost 90-degree warmth, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think we will see temperatures very close to 90 degrees, but I do not think that that is going to occur. Now, once we get towards the middle and end of the week of next week, like I said, that's when that cold front moves through. Temperatures will begin to lower back down towards normal for this time of the year, if not a little bit below normal, with morning lows in the upper 40s to low 50s. So we will go back to that cooler regime that I think we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I talked about how this warm-up was coming, but we would get cool again. And here it is finally showing up in the models. This is what we call a transient pattern, where we see a transition happening a lot. This transition is usually, they refer to it as transient because it doesn't last long. It comes and it goes. I think that's what this pattern is. It is transient. This warm air comes and it goes. That is what often occurs when you try to transition seasons. As we look at this graphic right here, this is the European ensemble. This is what we are looking at right now. You can tell what happens on the 24th, so this would be next week. We see this strong ridge taking hold of the eastern United States. I'm going to go a little bit past this weekly weather briefing, look a little bit into the long range, kind of give you some hints on what October could be like, at least the beginning of it, and we'll have the final October forecast ready here in about a week and a half to 2 weeks from now. But I do want to give you kind of a sneak peek at what my forecast thoughts on it are so far. You can tell we do have a negative, or rather a positive AO and a positive NAO, which often equals warmer temperatures in the eastern United States. This is what we call no blocking at all. Usually blocking is when we have the reds up in here, which I will show you here in just a second, because that will occur going into the couple of weeks from now. That will play a major role into our pattern in the eastern United States. But when this happens, we usually have a trough in the western United States and a ridge in the eastern United States, which equals warmer temperatures. And so this is what is something that we're going to have to monitor. This is why, guys, these low pressure systems, notice how I said they were forming in the Rockies and they were moving northeast, because they often go with the jet stream, and the jet stream is what is usually separating that cooler air from the warmer air. So notice right in here is where we're seeing that separation occur, and we're looking at the low pressure systems. If you went back to the other graphic, they ride right up into this region. So when they do that, we don't see any cold fronts making their way all the way through our region. So this ridge is so far north, at least the center of it is, and this trough is so far to the southwest that when you see that correlation between the two, or that deviation so far from away from each other, we usually don't look at these cold fronts coming all the way through our region unless the center of the ridge was further south, the trough was further towards the south and east, and we would be looking at that deviation coming right into our region. But right now it's off towards the northern and middle plains, so it's not really affecting our region much as far as the rain and cooler weather is concerned. It is bringing the warmer weather ahead of it. But once we look at this, is the same graphic, just a different view of it, showing you that trough in the north, in the Greenland area. And this is what is equaling those warmer temperatures, because we're looking at that warm air coming into the southwest side of that trough. That trough is keeping all of the cold air locked up into Greenland, and we're not seeing any of it coming down into our region except for into the western United States. Here is the next graphic showing you guys towards the very, very end of the month. This will be around the 30th of September. You notice that we're looking at that trough after the cold front moving into our region. Notice where we had all of the blues up here, we're beginning to replace them with reds. This is what I called the Greenland blocking event, which is what we often look at during the fall and winter months for cooler air to be coming into our region. Notice how it begins to to progress the cold air into our region. Notice that center, that piece right there. We see a ridge right here, a piece of another ridge right here. We see the cold air coming out of Greenland and moving down into our region. That is what is going to be something that I'm going to have to monitor. I mentioned around a week and a half ago that I thought we would have a cool or a very cold a very cold introduction to October, and it looks like this is going to play out just like I said it was going to, and I think that is going to occur. Here is another view of that. Notice the red beginning to move into Greenland. That is the Greenland blocking event. We see a high pressure system right here. We're seeing the winds around that high pressure system rotating this way. So this is also an event that we're going to have to keep an eye on as far as hurricane activity coming in under it. Can oftentimes produce hurricane activity in this part of the country, and oftentimes that always moves towards our part of the world. So we will have to watch that very closely. Looking at the AO forecast, this is the Arctic Oscillation. When we begin to see it move negative, that's when we begin to see cooler temperatures move into our region because it's getting replaced with warmer air in the Arctic, and we're beginning to see that cold air move its way into our region. Here it is right here, moving negative just in that time period right before that cold front. It usually takes a couple of days to respond, so we're looking at it coming in just in time, dipping around the 23rd, cold air coming in around the 27th or so, and it stays negative throughout most of this graphic. And the NAO is also going negative. This is also equaling some below normal temperatures for our country, eastern part of the country. Remember, guys, we have a lot of warm air to get through. It stays positive over the next couple of weeks, so we don't forget the fact that we have a lot of warm air above normal temperatures to get through over the next couple of weeks. But I'm trying to give you guys a sneak peek at October, and this is what we're looking at. This time period right here, if I had to draw a box right here where my mouse is, this would be the area that I would be watching, or the time frame that I would be watching for a forecast to play out in October, or at least the beginning of it. So we're looking at the negative AO, which is equaling a below normal temperature introduction to October. Here is the NAO, the PNA forecast. This is in the Pacific the North Pacific, and this is what we usually look at for blocking, or not really blocking, but high pressure to build into the west coast, which oftentimes equals below normal temperatures, more trough into the eastern United States. Notice how it begins to go positive. That is what we look for, is a positive PNA when we want to see below normal temperatures in the eastern United States. The Eastern Pacific Oscillation and the West Pacific Oscillation, which is this graphic, both of them try to go negative. This one is definitely trying, but it's not really going negative a whole lot. I would call this average. But we look at the WPO, we're looking at a significant drop into the below or to the negative category or territory. This is going to equal, I think, a big drop in temperatures over the next couple of weeks after we get past this cold front. Let's look at what we have so far for the month of September. This is what we are equaling so far as the average highs, the average lows. We put them together. This is the average September graphic so far, and we are well below the normal. You can tell the eastern United States is extremely below normal. We're looking at the center of that right here. This is also the coldest locations that were measuring temperatures when we saw the remnants of Hurricane Irma move into this part of the country. This is what really brought these blue colors into this part of the country, because we were looking at a lot of cool air right under the remnants of Hurricane Irma. But this will quickly go away as we see the warmer air return over the next couple of weeks. This will definitely put a dent into all of these greens and blues that you see in this part of the country, and a lot of these reds should go away and be replaced with more greens and blues, because we're looking at below normal temperatures. We're looking at a complete flip, guys. We're looking at all of this going to be moving across into the west coast, and we're looking at a lot of the reds to be moving into the east coast. But we are so far below the normal right now, and we're already more than halfway through the month, that I do think that we're going to be looking at this really staying holding its strong ground, because we saw more below normal temperature days by the end of the month than we will be looking at above normal temperature days. So this is how it is shaping up so far, guys. This is the current sea surface temperature anomaly, and you can tell that we do have a lot of warm water to work with up here in Greenland, which would equal more Greenland blocking to come over the next few weeks and into the beginning of October. Notice how we have a a La Nina beginning to form, and that is going to equal warmer weather in the southeast, cooler in the north central plains area, and we see us kind of stuck between the two, and that's going to really equal More cold shots coming behind the cold fronts, and we'll be looking at a really active pattern starting to take hold once we enter into the month of October. Warmer water in the North Pacific equaling cooler temperatures as well.